Kealan Patrick Burke is someone I feel he really is the pinnacle, I think, of what being the best you can be as an indie author means from all fronts, in terms of his cover art, in terms of that novella you showed, Blanky in particular, is definitely my it honestly is in my top 10 books of all time because of how just the prose is on another level, and like the actual thing that is horrific in that book is so unique, and I really love the way it was done. But yeah, so cool. So have you been reading anything else, or is that's what you're working on right now?
That's the two books that I'm reading now. I have an audiobook also that is The Old One by P.A. Douglas. But other than that, that's it.
Nice. And like, yeah, you've really been telling me you've been getting into it, right? And especially P.A. Douglas is someone you've been telling me I need to check out. And does he work with Deadite Press?
Severed Press, but he might be also Deadite. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
But the book that I'm looking at right now it says Severed Press, so which I heard is good too. So they have a lot of books though.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I brought it up was because if anyone looks up the book, the cover art looks so similar. You know, like Deadite Press has this really, just all the books they put out, man, just have this awesome, gnarly cover art. So that I'm always a fan of. And speaking of Deadite Press, actually, I one of the books I've read recently is you've been so gracious to gift me is SKINZZ by Wrath James White.
Yeah.
And if anyone's listening and they follow me on Goodreads or Instagram, you guys can check out the review I did of that. Nick, like, why don't you tell me, like, what your thoughts on the book first?
Well, other than the small little things like the editing issues, I looked over them pretty easily because the story itself was just I was so what's the word, riveted by it. I can't think of the word at the moment, but it was so good, and Mac is one of my favorite fictional characters like ever. So he's so flawed, but you care for him at the same time. He's just an excellent character. And what is his friend's name? Demon. He was pretty cool too. And I'm not gonna give anything away, but man, that ending in that book was, yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, what for me, it was the first Wrath James White book I've ever read, and I'm not sure. You said you haven't read anything else by him either, right?
Not yet, but I do have the Resurrectionist on its way, and I have Succulent Prey. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. And I heard great things about both of those, and especially the Resurrectionist. If you guys are into like film adaptations, they actually made it into a movie called Come Back to Me. So anyone knows the plot of that, like, even if you haven't read it, if anyone knows the plot of that book, knows how messed up that title is, and it's a great title, I think, for the subject matter.
Oh man, but I didn't even know that.
Also, this is my first time reading Wrath James White. I know him for things like The Resurrectionist and Succulent Prey, and he's coming out of Deadite Press. He's this extreme horror writer, one of the most extreme I've heard. So, and in the cover art, and this was one of the nitpicks I had in my review. If anyone doesn't know what the cover art to like the commercial paperback version of this SKINZZ looks like, I won't spoil it for you. You can go look it up. But and you agreed with me on this front. The cover art is so heinous and vile that it will totally set you up, especially knowing what Wrath James White writes. It totally sets you up expecting like this horrific, brutal, horror-esque take on like skinheads and like Nazi culture, and that's not what it is at all. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm probably happy I started with this as my introduction to this author, because I feel this was like definitely a departure for him from what he usually writes, and it's a really well done, bleak, and I need to stress extremely brutal story about just a group of friends dealing with, it's a really demented coming of age story that's set in like a time period where like the race war is at its peak, and I don't think we see enough coming of age stories that really are frank about how brutal like stuff gets from both parties. So it was a really great read. I ended up with like a 3.5 stars on it because you agree with me this later, I think, because you loved it so much in the moment, you would overlook some of the editing issues. And not to hate on, I don't want to go on a tangent and like hate on a particular press, but I feel like a lot of stuff that does come out of like, honestly, like stuff that comes out of Deadite Press, the editing could definitely use some work, because the story was so good that there was some editing problems that really knocked it down like a star and a half for me. But yeah, so dude, like I'm so like happy that you sent that to me, and I definitely enjoyed it. And that's one like you actually don't own anymore. You didn't send me your copy, but you don't own it anymore, and that's one of the ones you wish you didn't give away, right?
Yeah, because oh man, it was so good, and I actually want to reread it one day. Maybe Deadite will like re-release a revised version, because that would be awesome to see it without the the mistakes. But
Yeah.
man, was that story a ride. I liked that and so much. I was expecting, just based on the cover, I thought they would like kidnap a Nazi and torture him or something like that, but it never really happened like that. So, but that cover is just so sweet. It has nothing to do with the story, but man, for me it was 5 stars. But I easily look over like editorial mistakes, because as an author, I do not understand, that it's not always the author's fault. It's sometimes the publisher. And I'm not saying anything bad about the publisher, because they make some really badass covers and books and stuff like that. They have like an all-star cast of authors. But yeah, the editorial issues really kind of, it made me halt a little bit and stop every once in a while to figure out what the author was trying to say. But other than that, the story was amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. So like, yeah, and dude, I have nothing but like respect for Deadite Press, because they are like one of the few like publishers dedicated to really, and like we said, SKINZZ is from Deadite Press, and it's not a horror, uh, it's not a piece of horror fiction at all. So anyone should, people looking to read it should know that. But even then, like they are one of the biggest proponents of pushing out dark, really well realized fiction. And I think it's something that's been frankly lost, I think, in the like in the for a good chunk of time. I think for whatever reason it just became not as popular to really push the boundaries when you're writing horror. And like, which brings me to another topic, I guess, is vintage horror. So like, vintage horror isn't something, I openly state I'm not that familiar with actually old school vintage horror. Like vintage horror is something I think that really kept the spirit of really boundary pushing horror alive. And even though, like I said, I'm not super familiar with it, I know you are actually. So I'd love to hear your take on that. And like, yeah,
Vintage horror?
yep,
Yeah. Um, man, I have so many good books to show you. I feel like that was a Hellraiser quote or something like that. But but oh, he says I have such sights to show you or something like that. But
yeah,
yeah, sorry, I got a little carried away there. But yeah, I have this book here that is this is my favorite vintage horror book of all time, and that's Fear by Ronald Kelly. And of
nice,
course, mine is signed with some art there.
awesome, man.
Yeah, the dude's really nice, and he's actually coming out with 2 books now. One's called the Essential Six Stuff, and then the other one is called the Halloween Story and Other Halloween Tales or something like that.
Cool.
And I'm very looking forward to that stuff. But Ronald Kelly is one of those forgotten vintage heroes. Like he
Cool.
came out in
Okay.
like the 90s, and man, he's to me, in my mind, I'm a fanboy, so of course I think this, but he's like a rock star. And this is my favorite coming of age horror novel. It deals with tons of subjects like race, coming of age horror. It just has a bunch of stuff in it. It's just a really well written story, and unfortunately, or not unfortunately, well, unfortunately for me, since I have such a problem focusing, but it's 477 pages
Okay.
of
So
just
it's
awesomeness. So
cool. Awesome. So Yeah, dude, like I'll definitely add that one to my list. And I know you rave about Ronald Kelly a lot when we talk. So that's
Yeah, I
definitely
try
an
not
author.
to, but
That's actually
yeah.
one of the that's like a classic author who I've actually I never even heard of him until you brought him up to me, which is really cool. But yeah, like I know some other like what's the other author's name? Robert McCammon, right?
Oh, Robert McCammon, yeah. He wrote the. Well, you see, I'm an oddball because everyone, when they think Robert R. McCammon, they think of popular books like Boy's Life. Uh, they think of Usher's Taking or something like that. They think of some of the books that I didn't think that were that great compared to his book Stinger. His book Stinger I thought was like phenomenal. I liked it a lot, and it was kind of like the sci-fi horror, and I didn't expect to like it so much. And everyone's like, "Oh, don't read Stinger. It's not his best work." And I'm like, "Whatever. I don't care what you say." And I read it, and I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? This book is amazing."
Nice.
So
Yeah, man. Like my only experience with Robert McCammon is like it's not even an experience. I remember picking up. He wrote Swan Song, right? I'm pretty sure that was.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember picking that book up when I was in high school, and this is I didn't really get into. I've always been into like horror movies, which we'll get to later, but I didn't get into horror literature till I was like 18. But before that, I remember picking up Swan Song, and for whatever reason, I just put it down because I just was not ready to get delve into like, you know what I mean, like this dense
Yeah, books
story.
like this thick.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I just wasn't a prolific reader of novels, you know what I mean? Like a book that you just slam down and say, there you go. Like I'm not.
that's like a tome.
Yeah, 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 you're right. That's more like Dan Simmons or whatnot. But yeah, so that's definitely an author I have to check out. And like you said, Boy's Life is one. Oh, that's what it's called, right?
Boy's Life, yeah, was one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that people rave about. And I know people do rave about Swan Song as well.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, man, like so we have Ronald Kelly, then we have Robert McCammon, then we have one that I actually never knew how long ago he started writing and like how well known he was, because I just found his work through like Deadite Press and like stuff that's just when you look up for not even most popular, just most extreme, Edward Lee is a big name that comes up. So
Oh,
what's your experience with Edward Lee?
okay. So I've only read one book by Edward Lee, and then I read a short story by him. So I read The Stickmen, which is a sci-fi crime book, and it's everyone told me don't read it. It's not his best work, and of course I was like I am. I was like, whatever. I'm gonna read it. You can't tell me to do what to do. So
Yeah,
I I read it. And I went and bought the signed edition after I finished it. I was like, "This is amazing." Of course, there was editorial issues in the book, but the book itself was amazing. And I'm actually, hopefully he doesn't watch this, but I'm going to be sending a signed edition to my friend. So,
awesome.
you know, uh, yeah, he doesn't know what he's getting, and he's probably going to look at it and be like, "Oh, Edward Lee's Stickman, whatever," but he doesn't know the treat he's going to get. So,
Yeah, man. So like when I talked, my introduction to Edward Lee was, I think, it was too in my face off the bat. My introduction to him was what was it? It's a collection of novellas that they called The House.
yeah,
So, and it is, I have to give Edward Lee another chance because on one hand, what I read, I guess you could consider it 5 stars because I was seeking some of the most extreme. I was like, I just want to read something that truly just disgusts and disturbs me. I couldn't make it 2 pages into that book, The House by Edward Lee. What he writes, like the content, is so vividly detailed and heinous that I have no problem admitting it was just I wasn't ready for it. So I just put it down, dude. And like I know since then you've introduced me to the fact that he's written so much stuff before that and stuff that people actually it's not considered like it's not renowned for its extremity. It's renowned for simply him telling a good story. And I know you said recently he did a, not recently you told me he didn't do it recently, but recently you told me he did a, he released a book called Triage, right, with Jack Ketchum and Richard Laymon actually, with just
Oh yeah.
that premise alone sounds awesome. And why don't you tell me what that's about again?
Okay, yeah. So each story is basically of the same. Well, they're the same as in like they start off the same. Like it's about this. Each story is written about this lady in an office, and this shooter comes in and starts killing people. And each
Yep.
one takes that premise and goes off on their own story on it. So, you know, I read Richard Laymon's part and it blew me out of the water. Like I was like, wow, this dude is deranged. Like I was like, well, this guy has such a sick mind and I love it, you know. So yeah, I truly liked Triage or whatever it's called. I can't remember the title's name. I think that's right though. But Edward Lee's part is sci-fi horror, and it was pretty good. I didn't finish it though, and then I didn't make it to Jack Ketchum's part because I put the book down for some reason, and then moved on to other work. But yeah, that book seems to be like a pivotal moment for my Richard Laymon reading career. I've only read 3 books other than Triage, but yeah, they're amazing. So, except for one, but I'm not gonna get into that one.
Yeah, dude, like that's awesome, and like I can't wait to read Triage because you're sending it over, the good person that you are. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really can't wait to, because that premise just sounds amazing if I'm being honest, man, and with the talent involved. So yeah, I definitely need to give Edward Lee a shot, and even maybe check out his he I know like there's this dude on YouTube named Paperback Mania, and he went into he like his channel's dedicated to just vintage horror, and I remember hearing him talk about, I think it was called Nightbait. I'm not sure if Edward Lee wrote that book under Edward Lee or if he wrote it under a pen name, but I it makes me intrigued to see like how different his writing style was, the stories, like the content, the level of the content was when he was writing under another pen name. So, and apparently he's not happy with some of the work he's done under that pen name. So it makes me even want to check it out more to see, you know, the different, just the disparity between like his current work, what he's known for, and like his work like way back. So yeah, like Edward Lee's definitely someone I want to go into. But yeah, so in that book you also mentioned Richard Laymon, and you know, man, you and I both we unapologetically love Laymon.
hmm
So yeah, tell me a little bit about your love for him, and then I'll get into mine.
So, my first book by him was The Traveling Vampire Show, which I've been told is kind of tame for Layman. I didn't get that, but I thought it was a great story. And it's one of my favorite coming of age. Actually, it's number 2 on my top 5 list of coming of age horror novels. Fear by Ronald Kelly being number 1. The Traveling Vampire Show was just amazing, but I have to give it to The Woods Are Dark for my favorite Richard Laymon novel, because even though everyone, like
Wow,
you say,
yeah, dude. I was actually a little that is one of the I haven't read a ton of Layman's work, but I guess I'm lucky in the sense that whatever I've read by him so far, and I'll get to the one book in particular, but whatever I've read by him so far has been right up my alley. And I love it all the way. And the reason I find it like, I'm really intrigued that you really love that book, right? The Woods Are Dark.
mm-hmm.
People absolutely hate it, man. Like everyone I talk to, I've known, has said for some reason, from what I hear, it's some people blame it on like the storytelling, but some people hate it. They say for the content, which just makes me want to check it out altogether. Especially since I know you and I have similar tastes in like what we look for in certain horror experiences, and like, so yeah, tell me, like, you really like that book, right?
Yeah, there's 2 separate storylines that happen in the book. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's 2 separate storylines. One's about this guy who's trying to save this girl that he just met and fell in love for. Then the other part, which I really like, is about a father that just goes absolutely batshit crazy. And I love that side of the story. And just for that side of the story, I give this book like I don't remember what I gave the book all around, but for that side of the story, I give it 5 stars. You know, that part of the story was amazing. The other part, maybe 3 stars, but that part, 5 stars. So together, I think I gave it probably like 4 stars.
Awesome, man. I mean, dude, yeah, that just makes me want to read it even more, and it's a great segue to my what I've read by him so far is I've read his book. I think it was called Savage. It was just I'm pretty sure that was the title. I don't want to go look at the title right now, but I'm pretty sure the story was basically. I don't want to give anything away about it. It's something to do with Jack the Ripper. It is one of
I was thinking.
the best adventure stories I've ever read in my life. So, because before checking out Laymon in general, and that was the first book I started from that was the first book of his I started with. I just heard from everyone so much like, oh yeah, Laymon was cool, but like now his work is dated. It's not that good. Dude, I was like, I don't know what the hell these people are talking about, because what I love about Laymon is he really is not afraid with taking out the filter when he's talking, when he's letting his characters who are underage talk about how they feel, you know, about the world, about each other, about relationships. And I get like, because like, you know, when you're that age, there literally is no filter, your inhibitions are lower, you say whatever you want. So maybe because the majority of the characters in a lot of his books are underaged or like very young adults, and he basically outlines in detail all their thoughts, might put some people off who maybe outgrew stuff like that line of thinking. But for me, it just adds to the authenticity, and I really enjoy and get invested in his characters, man. I love his characters.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Layman I really love. And my friend told me that I was gonna love him right from the off the bat, because he said you're into characters, so you're gonna love this book. So I'm 100 pages into Island by Richard Layman, and there's this one character in it that is mine. He's like a teenager, so he has teenage thoughts, you know, about women and stuff like that, you know. So it's a really fun book, and I wish I could send it to you, but I'm not finished with it, so I'm not gonna send it to you.
Don't even worry. Yeah, like I was gonna say, that is the biggest problem, and I guess I'll openly say it. People have a problem with the sexual content in some of his books, and I think honestly I'm a bit baffled by that sentiment, because people there are so many authors who just push the envelope, like ones we touched on before, Edward Lee, James White, and if I'm being honest, they don't do it. Yeah, they don't do it in a, and I'm not saying this as a slight to their work, but it's just a fact. They don't really go about it in a tasteful way either. They just kind of let you have it. And I think this is just an opinion again, but I think Layman is a better writer than a lot of people who choose to write about the stuff he writes about. When it comes to stuff involving, you know, sex and being really frank about that stuff, I've never had a problem with it in terms of when I'm reading something, as long as it doesn't edge into erotica. If it's just detailing a character's thoughts, I have zero, and I don't have a problem with erotica, but that's something I just don't choose to read, because I don't find it a good a good use of my reading time. But I have no problem with it morally or anything. But yeah, like I've never felt Layman, you know what I mean, intentionally. He might push the envelope intentionally, but that's part of the experience I'm looking for when I'm picking up one of his books. But at least, and so far, like I said, I read Savages by him, or Savage, that I loved, and I also loved, and people might go berserk over the fact I say this, I really love the book Night in the Lonesome October, so much so that in my list of top personal 20 books of all time, it is number 20, right on the dot. It is, yeah, dude, it is really and I know you haven't read that one, right? So I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, that is something that is that book is a masterclass in how to truly create suspense and notch up the dread level, just page by page by page. And it's not a huge novel either. and it's just one of the best books I've ever read, if I'm being honest, dude. And I know that is one of the people who do even hate on Layman and end up reading Night in the Lonesome October. They say, "Wow, this is like us. I wouldn't expect this from Layman." Which, I think I can understand where they're coming from because they went through his whole backlog probably, and then it is different than any of the other plot lines he's ever done. It was not extreme in the slightest either. It is just a very, very well conceived, very surprising, charming, and very dark, suspenseful thriller. So I highly recommend anyone check out Night in the Lonesome October if they haven't. But yeah, dude. So like, I feel it's like become a cool thing to hate on Layman, whereas his contemporaries had nothing but great things to say about him as a person and especially as a writer, as a storyteller. Like, yeah, I don't like. Let's be honest. I don't think Layman's prose is like something. I don't think of him as like a literary writer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Even though he does have like an English degree or did have an English degree or whatever, he's a very smart dude. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So like, when it comes to his storytelling, dude, and like, yeah, like the book you were talking about, Traveling Vampire Show. I can't wait to get to that because I've heard nothing but amazing things said about that too, and I just will never understand the sentiment people have with, especially people who claim to enjoy, hardcore horror, or they're not for censorship, but then they have a problem when an author goes and tells the story they want to tell in terms of content. You know what I mean? So yeah, like, and what are your thoughts on that?
What, the content and stuff like that?
Yeah, the content in his book.
Well, I'm not offended by the contents in his book. I could see where some people would be offended, but man, I enjoyed 3 out of the 4 books I've been reading by him, or I've read it by him. The only book that I didn't like was Bite by Richard Laymon, obviously. That book turned me off a little bit because they were only like desert like through the whole book, so it was kind of boring. But in that, Woods Are Dark, Island, and the Traveling Vampire Show, loved them all. And then I forgot to mention Triage, but yeah, his content is not for everybody. That is for sure. But it's something you need to give it a shot, because you don't know if you're going to be into it until you give it a shot, So yeah, I think Layman is underrated for sure. I always hear like the big names always talk about how they were inspired by him. So he's inspired a lot of the splatterpunk authors these days, So I think the dude's awesome.
Absolutely, dude, and I'm heavily inspired by him. Like, I'm not even comparing myself to his storytelling capabilities at all. I have a really small body of work, but in terms of influences, he is definitely one of the ones. Like, I was just floored with. Layman, in my opinion, is the embodiment of what writing in this genre should. The spirit of what when you're saying you're a horror author, he embodies the fact that you should never be afraid of telling the exact story that you want to tell, no matter how many people might have a problem with it. And I think that is just badass, man.
Yeah, he didn't have any I don't want to say filter, but well, yeah, I guess so. Filter. Yeah, he didn't care. Well, maybe he did care. I don't know, but it seemed like he was gonna write a story no matter what anyone said, And it's a shame that he was really only known in the UK, Like, that's what I hear, is that he blew up in the UK, but in the United States he didn't have that much of a following or something like that. At least that's what I heard. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But yeah, it's a shame that he passed away so soon, because I feel like he had, because I think like this last thing he wrote was the Traveling Vampire Show, which is like, for me, so it seemed like he was hitting his stride when he passed away. So yeah.
Yeah, and like from what I'm not sure when he wrote Night in the Lonesome October, but from what you've said about when he wrote Traveling Vampire Show, like it's one of the last books he wrote, or was the last book, it does make me even sadder about his passing, because it shows like maybe he's like, I have a lot to offer, like people who love horror, and like I have a lot more stories to tell that are not like necessarily pushing for extreme content. So, and like you said, he was just getting into the stride of things with Traveling Vampire Show. So it is a shame to see like uh
Such an
we'll never get to
influence.
see, yeah, dude, like we'll never get to see where he went with his career. And but I'm glad he left us such a huge body of work that I urge anyone to check out. Don't listen to the hate. uh while it might have some merit for certain people who and I want to say off the bat, if you are someone who does not enjoy, I'm not saying like we enjoy it, but anyone who's not comfortable reading about stuff like rape or stuff like um cannibalism, stuff that's really, really out there, then definitely a tread with caution. But I can tell you right off the bat, you don't have to delve into that those things that he's written. You can start with things like the Traveling Vampire Show, or like Night in the Lonesome October. And I just he is an author that needs to be appreciated. I think he's only appreciated by people who he worked with, you know what I mean, or people who he worked alongside of, I should say, and not so much for people who uh, read his work today. So I think it is a cool thing that people like you and me spread the love and uh, how much we appreciate that guy. I think this is a great place to segue into how not enough booktubers or like even people who or authors seem to like openly share their appreciation for horror movies. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how much you love horror movies?
Oh man, I love horror movies. I wish I watched more of them because I feel like my time is split between writing, reading, and watching horror movies. So I have to choose between the three, you know. And usually I choose either writing or reading. So, but when I do get a chance to watch a horror movie, I enjoy it thoroughly. So, do you want to hear some of my favorites, or do you?
Oh, dude, let me hear it all.
Okay, so I got a list here of my favorites. So first, I'm going to start with the John Carpenter movies. The Thing, Halloween, They Live, Christine. Those four movies. John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors, and those four movies really pop out for me. Then you got Scanners, Videodrome, and The Fly by Cronenberg. Awesome, dude. And then some other movies, Dark Skies, Alien, anything really to do with aliens I like. So like The Fourth Kind. But those are some of my favorite horror movies right there. I know I'm forgetting some, but yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. So like just even like the first few you brought up, dude. I don't like. I think it's like this is a bold statement. I don't think you can call yourself a horror movie fan and dislike anything that John Carpenter has done. You know what I mean? It's just I'm sure you can, but it doesn't. It baffles my mind if someone has that opinion or is of that opinion because the he just does it all, and I'm in awe of his talent. You know what I mean, man? Like the dude is just an amazing filmmaker. He's an innovator, which is huge, and he's the only only film scorer to this day. You know, I love Hans Zimmer's work, and this is like it's not horror related, but I love Hans Zimmer's work. I'll never listen to an album of his stuff though. I listen to John Carpenter's music, even stuff he's not put into horror movies like separately. And like, don't you agree? Like his scores are just like off the wall. Just they fit so well and like capture the spirit of just like dread.
Yes. Halloween's theme is legendary. I know everybody knows it. The da 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 da. You know that everyone knows that one. But he's got more, and man, I can't. He's just amazing.
Yeah, man, and like yeah, so he's an amazing innovator, writer, director, and like who's the second guy you brought up?
Oh, David Cronenberg.
Yes, yes. So we often talk about him separately, and like we always joke around and say like we're huge fans of bizarro fiction, and we always say, imagine how crazy it is if someone actually tried to make this stuff into a film. And some people say that's the whole reason why it's such a popular literary genre is because you couldn't make that into movies. And I always say, well, I disagree. Actually, come to think of it, David Cronenberg probably is. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a huge fan of bizarro, and like yeah, all his stuff is just it's just bizarro to the max. You know what I mean, man?
Yeah, The Fly is my third favorite film of all time, and Jeff Goldblum killed the role, but I don't think he could do it without a good script. And man, that movie was great. The gross out scenes, the morphing that he goes through to turning into the Fly. Wow, and there was not that much murder in that movie at all. Like it comes down to an epic, conclusion. And I know it's a remake of a older film, but this one blows that older film out of the water by far, for me at least. And yeah, the movie The Fly is just, it goes down as my third favorite film of all time, right behind Aliens and
Wow.
The Thing.
Wow, damn, man. Have you ever seen the movie Dead Ringers? I'm pretty sure that's Cronenberg. I'm pretty sure that is Cronenberg.
Oh man, it sounds familiar, but I don't know. I know he wrote like a history of violence or something like that, or not wrote, but directed.
Really? Oh wow, I never knew that, dude. I love that movie.
I might be wrong. Don't quote me, but it was something to do with something violence, American history. I can't remember.
Dude, you are right. I just looked it up on IMDb. Wow, that makes me love History of Violence even more, because that's one of my favorite movies of all time, dude. I never knew Cronenberg directed that. Wow.
Cronenberg is a fantastic talent. Is he dead? I don't know.
Let's find out.
I hope not, because
no, he's still alive, dude. And wow, he was born in 1943. So I'm so happy he's still alive and well. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Wasn't he a Canadian director or something like that? And everyone was like, "Oh, Canadians can't direct movies," and then he proved them wrong.
Yup, he is a Canadian director.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm looking at his stuff. Yeah, Dead Ringers is by him, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Super dark and weird. Definitely recommend everyone check that out. It's basically about two gynecologists who people can't tell apart, and they both begin to kind of obsess over one girl.
Okay, I looked it up. It's on Tubi, so I'm watching it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, and we'll get to Tubi in a little bit, but yeah, like things like, and this is not really, we're segueing out of horror and more into, I guess, bizarro, but his movie Crash is extremely dark, and like I think the reason Cronenberg is the definition of a cult filmmaker who was mainstream is people just did not jive with his work a lot, like when in the beginning, because they're like, what, like, it's fucking weird, and I don't blame them for it.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, but man, the three films that I've watched by Cronenberg, because I actually plan on doing a whole marathon one day. I've only seen Videodrome, Scanners, and The Fly, so I'm looking up all the movies you keep mentioning. I'm like, oh damn, I need to see that,
Yeah, dude, and like oh yeah, so I guess we can. So going back to like straight up horror, yeah, I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not. Like, I know a little shout out here. I know John from Books of Blood really shares his love for horror cinema, which I just absolutely love. And like, you especially are another booktuber, and for anyone who's listening, who it might be in the title, but I know him as Nicholas Gray, but his YouTube channel is Spooky Noodles, so I definitely recommend you guys check him out if you're into horror reviews, if you're into just if you want to see a guy who clearly loves the horror genre talk about movies and books, he's your guy. So definitely go show him some love. And people like you and Adam Caesar is one of the popular ones. And a lot of people I've seen in his comments hate on him for showing too much love to horror movies and not enough to horror books.
Really?
Which is just hilarious, I think, because he's a horror author. But I'm glad he wears his influences on his sleeve, and he has no problem showing his love for slasher flicks that people just like to flick away as nonsense. And you and me both love everything about all horror genres. We love exploitation. We love just silent films. We like old school alien movies. We like it all, and especially slasher flicks. And yeah, so what are some of your favorite slasher movies?
Well, you have to say the bad boys of the genre, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween obviously is my favorite one of those three. Then there's some lesser known ones like what was that movie called? Hatchet, which has Victor Crowley. Then you have Almost Human, which I know not like no one knows what that book is or movie, and it's a shame because I think it's one of the best like low budget films I've ever seen. It's like an alien slasher, so it's or at least to me, I consider it that. It might not be to you, but I think it's a really good one. So
Yeah, and I actually heard of that movie for the first time when I discovered your channel and you were doing a top 5 your top 5 alien movies, and I was like, oh man, I definitely agree with this picks. Like, I'm a huge fan of Dark Skies, which is super underrated. I think super atmospheric, not gory at all. I messaged you recently that I watched it with gaming headphones, and it took it to another level because the sound design is so good in that movie. So 2013's, I think, Dark Skies, and in that list you also mentioned Almost Human, and I was like, man, I'm so happy I found this guy who loves books and talks about movies and seems to like horror movies as much as I do, and really knows like stuff that I haven't seen. So yeah, just that premise on its own, like an alien slasher film, just sounds epic to me.
yeah, it's oh man, I liked it a lot, and there's a one gross scene that I really liked, and I'm not gonna talk about it because I don't want to spoil it for you because you need to watch it. But
Yeah.
it's such a low budget film, but it's got such a charm to it that the acting was amazing to me at least, and the ending was just the ending was brutal. It has one of my I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but it has one of my favorite kills in like cinema history. It's not that even that good. Like that. It's not that. It's like like creative.
Yeah, you
but
mean how it's done, right? Probably.
it's how it's done is just. I appreciate it a lot. Is what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Awesome. Wow. No, dude. I mean, that you just like, I need to check this movie out because, like, the premise. Not only is it's like I get excited enough when I hear about any horror movie that anyone I trust and I share their taste with when it comes to books and movies. When they recommend me a new horror film that I haven't heard of, I just get excited immediately. And then with a premise like that, an alien slasher movie just sounds amazing. So I can't wait to check that one out for sure. And yeah, like some of my favorite slashers are Everything You Said, and also like off the top of my head, um, Maniac. If
Oh,
anyone listening, dude, I love the original. The remake is in my top 10 best horror movies ever made, hands
there's a
down.
remake.
Oh, dude, you're in for a treat, man. It's with Elijah Wood. It is so well done. If you guys want to watch a brutal, bleak, just mean-spirited slasher movie where it doesn't give a fuck, it doesn't hold your hand from the opening shot to the end, to the ending shot, it will never leave your brain. And if you're into that kind of stuff, like sometimes you want to watch horror movies to be entertained, but sometimes you're like, come on, I want something that horrifies me and gets under my skin. Maniac, the remake with Elijah Wood. I think it's 2012. I'm not sure. But yeah, I highly recommend that one. Let's see what else. There's a Japanese movie. I think it's 2010. Not Japanese. I apologize. I think Chinese movie called Dream Home. It's called Dream Home, and it is in my top 5 best slasher movies of all time. And no one talks about it. No one's seen it. Again, from the opening shot to the end, it is just. And you'll see a pattern I have here. I'm a huge fan of the classic slasher movie. You know what I mean? Texas Chainsaw. I'm a fan of Halloween. I'm a fan of Madman.
Psycho.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of Psycho. I'm a fan of stuff that's not gratuitous, but really they're innovators in terms of suspenseful horror filmmaking when it comes to like the serial killer like psychopath genre. But I just love the ballsy filmmaking that's really clean, modern, brutal, and like so stuff like this movie called Dream Home. It's a Chinese film. It is so unrelentingly gory. And at this point, when I saw it, I only saw it 2 years ago. I was pretty much seasoned. I'm like, I've seen it all. And this is a slasher flick. I'm like, it's gonna be a fun time. Fun is the last way I describe this movie. It is and I was so glad. It is so rare to be scared of a slasher movie anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The kills in this movie are so ruthless, and they're so bleak and vile that I think anyone who wants to either push the limits, wants to see something new in the slasher genre, needs to check out Dream Home. And I'll also give another foreign film a shout out. I'm pretty sure it was Indonesian or Malaysian. Forgive me for not getting it correct, but it's called Macabre. It is, and I'm glad I remembered this one. If you guys want to watch a movie that genuinely resembles it's like it feels like it was the best splatterpunk novel adaptation that was never actually a novel. That's what it feels like. It's macabre, and it's called Macabre. It's an Indonesian film. Again, the tone of dread in that movie, just the brutal, no holds barred, like, oh, this disturbs you? Well, guess what? I'm gonna take it up even further. And I'm not talking about sexual stuff. I'm talking about just kills and violence. It is so well done, and it is so brutal and bleak that I really appreciated being unnerved for a change. Like, cause, like, wouldn't you agree? Like, when's the last time? Can you think of the last horror movie that's actually unnerved you?
Um, unnerved me.
Because of the
Wow.
violence. I mean, because of the violence of
Oh,
the kills.
I was about to say Dark Skies unnerved me, but not
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of the violence.
Oh yeah, a
Jeez.
ton of I should rephrase what a ton of horror movies, modern horror movies have have succeeded in scaring the shit out of me. I meant like in terms of violent films that have actually unnerved me because of how the violence is done. It's few and far between, so yeah.
I think there was like this movie. I don't even think it was a horror film, but man, there was like this opening scene, and after the opening scene, I was like, nope, 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 you know. But I don't remember what the movie's called. It's like American X or something like that. I can't remember what
Oh
it's
man,
called.
so a phenomenal. And it's funny because we brought up Skins. I feel that is the closest movie that hits on race issues just like Skins does. It's American History X.
Oh, okay. When he takes that black guy outside, puts him on the curb, his teeth on the curb, and then steps on the back of his head, I was like, no, I can't. If this movie goes deeper than this and it's gorier than this, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, and it's funny you actually brought that up because I was just talking about slasher movies, but yeah, dude, I mean that is a movie that was way ahead of its time, and I think I say that, but at the same time, I don't think it could be made today without some insane controversy,
Hmm.
because I think for some reason I do think this is a I don't want to talk about politics, so I won't linger on this at all, or like, but I think anytime you make stories about a racist changing his ways or something like that, people are not the most open to it. And I think cinema is one of the ways, because that is a touchy subject, and it's like it could be very polarizing content. I think films like that are the perfect medium to explore uh, that kind of content. And I think American History X, like you brought up, is one of the few ones that does it really, really well. So yeah, but in terms of like horror movies, like nothing really can come to your mind that actually unsettled you because of the violence, right?
Um, I'm trying to think if there was this one scene in Sleepaway Camp, I think it was called, um, where the killer comes in and you can't see the killer's face or anything. Uh,
Yeah.
he there's a chef boiling a pot of water or grease or something, and he either gets his head dunked in or it falls over on him and boils his skin. And that scene was pretty brutal for me. I was like, I liked it a lot, but it at the same time it made my flesh kind of crawl a little bit. I was like, oh man, that must actually really kind of hurt.
Absolutely, man. And I love Sleepaway Camp, and you're right. That is another one that it gets thrown around as like a fun cheesy slasher flick. The last, and we won't even touch on the ending for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Oh, oh.
The final shot of that movie is, I'm not saying this from in like a funny way, even like it chilled me like to the bone. It is one of the most disturbing final shots ever. It is so creepy. Anyone who has not seen Sleepaway Camp, and I do want to give a warning without spoiling anything. You might be the you know what they choose to do, I can see people being offended if like
The
they
reveal.
kind of, yeah, the reveal they do is something that might be seen as sensitive today, but just look at it in the context of the time period it was made, and it wasn't meant in any malicious way. It was just meant as a plot reveal, and it's not even the reveal that unsettles me that much. It's how it's done, and literally the final shot that you see, right? Like props to the the actress who did that.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about it because then
Yeah.
it spoils the film. But wow, that ending, that ending, it puts like throughout the film. I'm like, okay, this is like kind of like a cheesy Friday the 13th, and then that end reveal like just changed the whole movie for me. I was like, I did not see that ending coming. I thought one thing. I was like, oh, okay, it makes it look like it's gonna be this person, but I think it's going to be this person. And then at the end, I'm like, what? Again,
Yup.
not trying to spoil
Yeah.
anything, but yeah, wow. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp is like probably my top 5 slasher films of all time. So
Absolutely, for me too, man. It's definitely up there in the top 3, I'd say, actually.
yeah, it just might. Yeah, I'd have to really think about it.
Yup. And but yeah, dude. So like, speaking of like, how you and I seem to really appreciate just I think boundary pushing horror, and especially in horror movies and all that. I think another question like worth exploring is, why do we, and for anyone listening who doesn't know, Nicholas Gray also happens to be an author, and uh he did release a book, Graymatter, but for reasons I won't get into right now, because he's reiterated it a million times, he is re-releasing that book eventually as a revised edition, and when he does, I highly recommend you guys check that out. If you're into really just creative and like fun, spooky horror stories. But the reason I brought that up is because both of us being writers, I'd say it is a question worth exploring, and that is, why do we enjoy writing dark fiction, and why do we enjoy just movies, books, and like even dark music so much?
Yeah, it's such a hard. I had to really think about this because people in the past have said, man, you must be sick for liking all these stuff. And for me, it's like it's an escape from reality, and just like it's so hard to talk about why I like horror writing, like writing literature, horror movies, horror music, which is very touchy. No one really likes to talk about horror themed music.
Oh, we'll get into that and we'll have fun.
Yeah, but it's it's just so much fun to just to relax and watch like a horror film, like to see Jason Voorhees just chop off some lady's head. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to explain the enjoyment in it. It's probably makes me sick for thinking that that's like amazingly cool or whatever, but it's not like I would want to go out and do that.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest, and I hate using this term, but fuck it, I'm gonna use it. Normies, like people who basically, and I only use that term and is in a playful, teasing way, because the general public, man, my whole life, even some of my best friends, and nothing against them, but whenever people find out like you're really into horror, you know what I mean, horror movies, horror books, horror music, I think there's a certain stigma that people have uh, with the content associated with horror, that whenever they can't wrap their head around the fact like how someone can be so into it, you know what I mean? And I think that might creep them out. Whereas, and we'll get to this later too, but all the worst serial killers have never really openly been into any of this stuff. They've been all outstanding people, you know what I mean? Or so they seem to be outstanding people. They helped in the community and all that. So like
Go to
it is
church.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, and we won't get into that at all. But yeah, exactly. You and me have our thoughts about that. But yeah, so I think I think just like anything else, people have to understand like, yes, part of it is you like what you like. You know what I mean? Some people, and there's nothing you should never be ashamed, as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. You should be never ashamed for liking what you like. And horror movies, I think, let's say like a teenager listening to this now is really into horror, but he's constantly told, "Oh, that's fucking weird. Why are you into horror?" And like, "Why are you shouldn't be so into it. Stop watching that many dark movies or stop reading just dark books." I think he needs to understand that there's nothing wrong with him, for one, and two, it's an outlet. People don't get, and I don't mean an outlet as many, and like a big thing that my friends have touched on is, oh, why do you like this depressing stuff? Not even just horror, but like, why are you into depressing fiction so much? Depressing movies, movies with bad endings, or unhappy endings, I should say. And they're like, is it because it reminds you of how great your life is? I'm like, I would imagine that's what an outside perspective looking in would feel. It is more just, I feel it's a good feeling knowing that someone who's created this art knows what it feels like to be down and depressed, and he's channeling his negative energy and negative thoughts about the world into a medium of fun entertainment that our select group of people can enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know what else to say other than, it's just an amazing form of art to me, that it's so shit on,
Yep.
like especially horror music, but it's I, I don't know what to say other than that I wish more people understood, and I wish I understood what the appeal is, because I love horror in every aspect, and I wish I had an answer for people who are like, just watch some happier stuff. I can't stand happy stuff. Comedies, I can't stand comedies, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because the only comedies we can stand really are ones that are very dark and but clever and well written, like anything that Judd Apatow has made, like Superbad, the 40-year-old virgin, movies like
Mm,
and you're a big fan of movies like that.
yeah. Oh man. What was that movie? You just said it. Super bad.
Superbad.
Yeah, that movie was hilarious, but it's got a dark sense of humor in it sometimes. Not
Yep.
maybe not dark, but you know what I mean.
No, definitely non-PC, and I'm not saying there's plenty of comedies that try to be non-PC and fall flat. It's the fact that it's so real with how, again, it's almost, I feel like Laymon would be a fan of Superbad for sure.
Oh yeah, especially yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, exactly. So like for me personally, I always need some sort of darkness to permeate anything I read or you know what I mean? Anything I
Yeah.
read or like we said, and you're right, not enough people talk about listen to. So horror music. What are some of your favorite horrorcore or darker hip hop artists?
Man, that is hard because there's so many. I used to listen to a lot of underground artists that no one has ever heard of. So like there's one called Smalls One. She's she's really dark, and she wrote a song called Psycho, and it's about or is it Creep Show? My bad, Creep Show. And it's about this guy, a fan of hers. It's a story, and it's about a fan of hers that is way too into her, and then at the end of the song he kidnaps and rapes her. I know that's a very touchy subject, but
No, exactly. Like, and I'm not laughing at it, but exactly. I think, and this is the main reason I love horror-themed hip hop music, or like really dark, crime-ridden hip hop music is my favorite because the lyricism in it is just so well done and well thought out. These are
mhm.
basically artists, dude. They're poets and writers themselves, and artists who spend time, right, thinking about ways to weave in really dark storylines in like a 3-minute window, which is just a huge talent and will never be cherished by the mainstream because of the content. And I think Eminem's older stuff, or on
Mm,
stuff like his underappreciated albums like Relapse and Relapse, yup, right? Relapse Refill, are like the song Stay Wide Awake and stuff
stay
like that.
wide
That's
awake. Yeah.
Yeah, and I won't say the opening lyrics because I don't want to get flagged. uh, People like that are the closest the mainstream has gotten into like really, really well thought out lyricism detailing
And they didn't
just
like it that much.
no, they didn't, and it is funny how his one of his most well-written albums is also one of his most hated. But
Yeah.
yeah, so people like Eminem, but yeah, like a few of my favorite underground hip hop artists who really like embody just and I'll give you guys a few songs of theirs too if you guys want to listen. People like Cage. So Cage is,
Oh,
you know Cage,
sorry.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, Eminem dissed him, but I was like, I was like, Cage is awesome. What are you doing? His album, or not album, well, the album was awesome, but oh, what was that song called? It was like something to do with worms or something like that, and it's about his drug addicted girlfriend or something, or drug ballad or something like that.
Absolutely, Ballad of Worms. That's
Ballad
exactly
of Worms. I was so close.
Yep. If you guys, after you finish watching this video, guys, if you guys don't know Cage, go do yourself a favor, check out Ballad of Worms and watch the lyrics read the lyrics as you listen, because that honestly is one of the best written songs of all time. It
Oh,
is
that made me feel, and I was creeped out, and oh, it was descriptive. It was like a story in 3 or 4 minutes. It was so good.
Yeah, and I forgot the band's name, but the sample he uses in it, it's so haunting and so well done how he weaves it in and out of the chorus. It's from a song called I'd Heard a Fly.
Oh
But
wow, I never knew that.
yeah, I discovered that way after I heard the song for the first time. So, but anyways, yeah, guys, definitely check out the song Ballad of Worms by Cage. And so yeah, a lot of his music is just great. And if you guys want to hear a great album by him, listen to the album. It's called Movies for the Blind. It, yep, you know it, right? How
The
great.
author, the cover art is amazing for that.
Yup, yeah.
He's got like 3D glasses or something, and there's a skull or something. I can't remember very well, but that album cover was so cool.
Yep. So that, and one of the great songs off that is I think Agent Orange, and another one is the soundtrack.
Uh,
That the this is the soundtrack. It's pretty messed up, but this is the soundtrack to Killing Your Stepfather, da 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 da, and
oh,
Dowsum and Goldschlager. Really,
what was
just
the one where he goes, like where he's talking about like where he's a failure or something like that?
that's like half of his work, and I love it all.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Where he's like, my life. How does it go? Now I gotta look it up. But yeah, Cage was amazing, and when Eminem dissed him, right when he was starting to, you know, creep up to kind of the mainstream,
Yup.
you know, I felt so bad because he just, dumped into, everyone just hated him, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. But
Yeah. And you know, man, this is worth saying. A lot of these Eminem actually, I'm not saying Eminem bit Cage or anything like that, but it's not hard to believe that he might have bit a little bit of Cage's style, because Cage, old school Eminem sounds a lot like Cage's delivery and style, and Cage came out before him.
yeah, uh, yeah, for sure. And I looked it up, and I think the song that I'm thinking of is like literally called "Suicidal Failure."
Yeah,
So
yup, it's a great song, and it's off that same album. Yeah, movie.
yeah, that's why I was bringing it up. The hook is, "I'm a suicidal failure. My life's a failure. I can't make it into rap because my birth's an error. Do
Yeah.
what I can to catch a quick death, but I'm meant to be here, not the fucking hell I live with."
Yeah, and like exactly. So like all these we named Eminem and Cage so far. Another one. It's funny how all these guys are rivals, but I love all of their music. Is Necro. And I know,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
dude. I know Josh from Working Man Reed is a huge fan of Necro too. And yeah, he has this delivery that's just so like sleazy, but the lyricism is he is like a splatterpunk rapper.
And anyone who enjoys splatterpunk and you're looking for music, you're like, oh, I can't stand Cage the Elephant or those type of bands, and you're looking for a music, try Necro.
Yeah, or try Cage, not Cage the Elephant. Even though Cage the Elephant is cool, definitely for calming down, but yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean to diss them, but I'm just saying, if you're like, oh, I'm sick of this upbeat, happy music, I need something like fucking Head Split.
Yeah, and like just he has a brother named Ill Bill, and like they did a song called Our Life, and it's just not even like, you know, horrorcore. All these rappers, including Necro, Ill Bill, Eminem, I just like the darkness they have no problem exploring in their music with. It's no frills. It is extremely well written. So like, here's like a verse from Our Life from Ill Bill, who's Necro's brother, and it's detailing their life. So I used to mush thugs, and now I push drugs. I knew a kid that put slugs in his own mug. Used to show me his guns. Ain't a cat that knows me as son. Remember violence at only one. I used to watch how my pops would treat a girl and beef with the world. He had a bone to pick. That's why my dome was sick. It rubbed off on me because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, G. It's like really,
Oh, jeez, I like that last line a lot.
yeah, really good lyricism, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I think the deeper you go into the underground, the more you find that there's a lot of talented artists that just
Yeah, better
not.
writers. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. They come. You discover better and better writers that will never make it famous because the content they choose to write about with their talent is very, very dark and depraved.
Yeah, and if you ever check out like I forget the rapper's name, but he did a song with this group that I really like called Dark Half, and I don't you probably never heard of them, but um
Who are I've because you know I definitely I'm a huge fan of underground hip hop like you. So who is in that group?
I don't remember their names to be honest.
Okay.
But one of the guys like he wrote like Dark Half is like one guy's supposed to be like the guy who raps about serial killing and supposed to be like the voice in your head.
I
The other
see.
guy is like this depressed, dude who just raps about real life and how it sucks. And then when they come together, they're the Dark Half, and which is I think based on a Stephen King novel, where it's like that, And
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I've never read that King novel actually, and I think there's
me
a film.
neither.
Yep, there's a film adaptation of it too. I think, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, they made a song called uh uh what was it called? Um I don't remember what it's called, but the
Yeah.
beginning is like so sweet. It's oh man, I gotta look it up for you, but I keep saying that, but
Yeah, I mean some of these lyrics, dude, they're literally they're worthy to be like the storytelling and the writing, the wittiness, everything is just on point, and it's something you will never ever see again, sadly, I think, in mainstream hip hop. And it's crazy to think this kind of stuff that's now become the underground was the norm way before we were born, which sucks kind of, but yeah.
yeah, and I just looked up the song. You're gonna love this group, by the way, if you like horror rap.
Yeah.
Um, this is Dark Half, What's Wrong with Me, featuring Raven Del Abega.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard of him.
Um, it goes like the beginning. The first guy raps about how disturbed he is and stuff like that, and then he ends his verse with killing his whole family.
Yeah.
and
Sad.
and then the hook is like, don't you know what's wrong with me? And I just like it. But one of the guys, the guy who always raps about depressing shit, killed himself. So it's really sad. But
Yeah,
I
and you know, I think yeah, like horror themed music and like horrorcore underground hip hop, it does attract. It's people think that's another reason people who aren't into this shit. They're like you listen or watch horror movies and read horror and become depressed. It doesn't work that way. You're already like that and you find solace in this kind of stuff. So it's sad though. It wasn't enough for him to, I guess, to help him cope. So yeah.
yeah, he wrote this song that every time I'm sad, I listen to it and it immediately cheers me up. And I don't know what the chemical is for that in my brain that makes me, happy after listening to it. But he has this song called uh I think it's called Remember Me. And basically he's just saying, uh like he wishes everyone would get along, and just how much he wishes that he wasn't a drug addict and stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think it was called Remember Me, because now that I'm looking it up, it doesn't come up. But sorry, my dog is in the background yelling.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, I'm not finding it. But very very good song. I listen to it every time I'm sad. Another rapper that I like is Quorm de la Quorm.
Nice,
Uh,
dude. I don't know any of these guys actually. I'm gonna check them out.
Quirm de la Quirm wrote a song called I think he wrote a song called Dead Silence, and it's based on the movie Dead Silence.
Nice.
And it goes Dead Silence, LSP bringing the violence, scum fucks in this build, fucking something, start wilding. I don't remember how it goes, but it's
yeah, dude, and like. And yeah, I guess even there's probably people listening to us like laugh and like talk about these lyrics. They're like, "Oh, you guys are sick in the head. How can you?" I think like Josh from Working Man Reads will back us up. This is just another. You're right. Some reason when it comes to music, people forget like you can explore horror too. It's like stuff. People are weird. Like some people who claim to be horror fans, they'll accept certain things in a book but not in a movie, and then they'll accept certain things in a book but not in music.
Yeah,
so, like,
I totally get that. That's why I say that like horror music is so hated on. You know, like in the mainstream media, they're like, "Wow, is this the next upcoming serial killer?" You know, and
yep, and like this is another piece of Necro's lyrics from a song called "Beautiful Music for You to Die To." So he goes, "You're dead, kid. Now you're just meat for preparation. Your brain smeared all over the street like defecation. Pull a gun out. Pull a gun out on a star, 'cause you're way too famous on Hollywood Boulevard to get run over by a car. Big saws the size of the teeth of Jaws chop you into jigsaws, pop you with a sig saw, staring at death like a 9/11 jumper, or Antichrist superstar drop the spine of a reverend in a dumpster."
Wow.
Like it's very well thought out, well crafted lyrics that I get. Well, it's super offensive to people, but I think rappers like this, people like Eminem, have always been the biggest proponents of like, you have a voice, you have the right to use it, and you should always never hold anything inside yourself. So any kid watching this who wants to become a horror writer or a rapper, like, use these mediums to explore, like, you know what I mean, your dark feelings.
Yeah, for sure. Like, because I feel like if you build up these dark feelings inside you, you know, and you don't release it through some type of art, like literature, music, horror movies, you don't, you know, that can build up, I think, sometimes. And I'm not saying that because you watch this stuff you're gonna kill people, but I do feel there are some people out there who let this stuff build and try to act normal and stuff like that, and then flip out later on in their life. You know, I don't know if
exactly. Yeah, I'm
you know
not
what
saying.
I'm saying.
I totally get you, man. I'm not saying like if you don't turn into Stephen King, John Carpenter, or Eminem that you're gonna become a shooter. That's not what we're saying. But
No,
yeah,
no.
it's. I'll say if anyone who has that in them to begin with, and their environment is not the best, they are of that mind state. Music and art could definitely help them just
Yeah,
contain those emotions and maybe just be able to live their life without ever harming anyone else.
exactly. Like, I feel like there could have been some great people if they would have just like listened to, I don't know, like some music or read some books or watched some movies, that they would be totally different for them, you know, because it's such a, I don't know, I get this not high, but this feeling I get when I watch horror movies. I don't want to go out and do that stuff, you know. It's hard to explain. I don't know what I'm saying.
Of course not, dude. And you know, it's total bullshit that we even have to justify, you know, especially in you know, like, nowadays you really do have to always put disclaimers, warnings, and justify everything you say and do when you're an artist, which I think I'm fine with it, and I do it too for my work, but I'm fine with doing it as long as it means no one will be able to police what I say or do.
There are some things though, like if you see a cover with like a guy getting ripped open, and you're like, I wonder if this is about something else, you know, and you go into it and then get offended, you know. You did that to
Yeah,
yourself, because there is literally a man getting torn to pieces on the cover.
yeah, exactly, and that's cool that you bring up cover art, because like our appreciation for cover art, I think, goes beyond even our books. You know, we were talking about Deadite Press, dude. It goes into heavy metal music and horror, all these horror groups and stuff. We're talking about the cover art. People forget those are like artists who that is their medium to explore super messed up and dark thoughts and create it into something imaginative and beautiful, for a lack of a better word. I'm not saying like, I guess I am saying there is some beauty in a Cannibal Corpse album. You know what I mean? Like seeing how well done the art is. Like people forget it. They just like people who are outsiders, especially, or not familiar with the genre of music, or not horror fans. They'll be like, "Damn, that's so demented and disturbing. Why would you create that?" Instead, they don't see this is the kind of art that someone wants to share, so they're sharing it, and whoever likes it can like it, and whoever doesn't like it doesn't need to see it. So, but yeah, like cover art in terms of, remember that metal band I showed you like 2 weeks ago, man, Aborted.
Mm-hmm.
How good was
Yeah.
the cover art for their stuff?
Oh, it was so neat. I was like, is this a book? And you're like, no, this is a band. And I was like, damn, that is such a good cover.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And like, and it, especially when it comes to yeah, just I love how people over time have found a way to incorporate horror into like music and just everything, because I feel it is a genre that you can do so much with that it shouldn't just be limited to books. And like that's why like I'm a fan of you and Adam Caesar and like John from Books of Blood, that uh who choose to talk about horror in other mediums other than books, even though it's a booktube channel.
I am so happy that I found Books of Blood and Adam Caesar, because watching their enthusiasm for some movies, I like Adam Caesar especially because he'll show off. Well, he used to do this. I don't know if he does this anymore, but he'll show off a horror movie, be like, "This is a great horror movie," and then he'll pair it with a book, you know.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
love that because I like both, you know. So if I liked one of the books he holds up and then he says, "Read this movie if you like this book," I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look that up, you know, and watch it later.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said about, I think the reason that's not like not I'm not naming any booktubers or anything or saying that you have to. It's their channel. They can do what they want. And I'm still a
Hmm.
fan of them even if they don't do it. But I think there's a sort of pretension that comes with literature that doesn't appear in music or movies, at least in terms of horror. People who love horror literature, a lot of times they'll really harp on pretty horror and downplay splatterpunk and stuff like that, instead of saying there's room for everyone here. You know what I mean? And the same
Yeah.
thing when it comes to it's not as prevalent in music, because the only kind of people who write that kind of music are like free spirited, not open minded horrorcore writers and stuff. So, but yeah, horror literature is so vast, just like horror movies, that I feel like a lot of times, for whatever reason, people love to be pretentious about what you should read or listen to, even if it's horror. And I think that shouldn't be a thing that comes up.
Yeah, everyone's always saying stuff like, you know, when it comes to splatterpunk, they're like, oh, it's too gratuitous and it's just gore for gore's sake. And I'm like, if the bad ones are, you know, but if you read a good one, it I feel like it would change anyone's perspective if you read a good splatterpunk book, because they're detailed, and that's one of my favorite things about books is the detail of some of these splatterpunks. And sometimes they'll have a really good story with it, like SKINZZ had a pretty good story, you know. But I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's a splatterpunk book, but
Exactly. It's again, it's not even our fault or you for like talking about it in that way. It's just like the violence in it is graphic, and like the subject matter is graphic, and it's Wrath James White. But anyone who reads it will know what we're talking about. It really is not splatterpunk, because splatterpunk is supposed to be like entertaining violence. Nothing in that book was really entertaining at all.
no, when I like the grossest scene that happened, and I think it's on the synopsis.
Yeah, and
Um,
spoiler.
yeah, spoiler. I think it's on the synopsis though. I don't want to say well, you know, I'm not going to say it, but there is something that happens at the train station,
Yep.
and that scene, I thought I was going to love it because, you know, I heard someone else write about it, you know, so I thought I was going to like actually enjoy this, you know, kill. But then I read it and I felt horrible, you know, reading that. And and then
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I can't believe I actually felt horrible for someone who doesn't even exist.
A lot of times performance with that silent can make you care about someone instantly if it's an insanely talented actor. But author, all you have is your words. No soundscape like movies, nothing. All you have are the words. So it really is like, all the horror writers we've talked about so far, and like it's a testament to just the power that really being able to craft a good story and these people who don't even exist, and getting you to just care about words on a page so much that it can affect you is really just amazing. And I do feel the horror genre is the one genre where you can explore like the all the darkest emotions with free reign. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and I don't know where I would be without horror.
Me
Like
either, man.
I write it, I read it, I watch it, I listen to it. I'm just I don't know where I would be without horror. I would probably be miserable, to be honest with you. I don't know if you feel the
Yeah.
same, but
I mean, I 100% agree, dude. I'd go far as to say, and I have no problem saying this, and no one has to worry or anything, but because obviously horror is not going anywhere. But there was a point in my life, and we don't, we've talked about each other's lives and stuff. We don't have to get into that here, but
yeah,
there was a point in my life where I probably would have been dead, like flat out as a fact, without horror,
yeah,
or
me
heavy
too.
metal, or anything dark, any dark kind, any form of dark art. So I'm always going to be grateful we live in a world where this stuff is accessible and it's allowed, and like it's necessary, I think, too. But yeah.
Yeah, I if it wasn't for artists like Andre Duza, Shane McKenzie, and so many more authors that I'm just getting into, I probably would have. And I don't mean to worry anybody at all, but I probably would have offed myself a while ago, because
Yep.
I found no I would find no like outlet for some of the stuff I feel, and it's so hard to explain. And
Yeah,
but
we'd feel more alone than we already are. We'd feel, wow, these whole community, these people who I enjoy their art so much, they really understand not even how I feel for some of the stuff, but just I'm not alone. Like there's other people like me, exactly like me.
yeah, like I like to read about horror, and if people really kind of like harped on me for it and was like, oh wow, you're demented, you should be ashamed of yourself, and I didn't see this whole community of people who are just like me, I would probably believe them and be like, okay, you're right, I am demented, I shouldn't be here, but there's this whole community, and I think the horror community itself is like, there is a bad side to the horror community, but there is a lot of nice people in the horror. It's funny because the horror community
Absolutely.
to me like is much more caring about people. It's which is weird. I don't know why there's uh, the horror community is so nice. But maybe it's because they read such wicked shit all day, and
Yeah, I think it's like that. We all try to say everyone knows it's an unspoken rule. Like already we're viewed as freaks to the general public. So the last thing we need is to like remind each other. So it's kind of like, or not even remind each other because we're not freaks. But what I meant is like it's it, we're almost shocked because we're treated so differently from the outside world that wow, like it's just normal here. What we think, feel right, like to listen to, watch, it's all normal.
there's this whole community of people with their arms wide open, and they're very honest, and I think horror, well, most usually horror readers are the most how do I word this, the most I literally, the word's gone, I am so sorry, but they're the most understanding, and I appreciate them because there's been so many kind people who read my book and was like, oh man, your stories are amazing, but this and that, and they didn't like totally shit on it, and I appreciate that a lot, from the horror community. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. I agree with
Okay.
everything you said, and like I totally get where you're coming from, obviously too. And then, yeah, and like it makes me wonder how, you and I are both really like we're big into like reading about and listening to, watching true stuff related to true crime, and like some of these serial killers and stuff. I always wonder. 99% of the time, it is not just yes, like there's plenty of people who've had totally deranged and horrific, heinous, messed up childhoods, but they'll never do anything because they don't have the gene within them. But it is scary to see the luck that someone could have to not only have that gene inside them, but also have the luck to just be graced with the worst childhood, worst parents, worst support system possible, with no outlet. And like, I know we talk a lot about this, like just in our own conversations, but like who are some of the people that come to your mind who just like you're like, man, I wonder if that could have been stopped, or if he needed someone to talk to, or like just you're baffled by how the depths of like depravity like human beings can descend to.
Well, the most depraved killer that I know, and I don't know how I could save this dude because he was just off in the head, Yeah. But have you ever heard of Albert Fish?
I have heard of him. Yeah, I'm interested to. Yeah, and I agree. You can keep going, but I totally see why you picked him as that example. I don't think he could have been a. I'm surprised to see what could have stopped a guy like that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was any stopping him. I mean, a dude
and sorry, sorry to interrupt you. Before we talk about this stuff, by the way, guys, this whole thing's gonna be timestamped, and obviously if you're this far, you know that by now, but I'm gonna leave a timestamp to you guys can just skip this whole segment if you want, because we're gonna talk about everything we know about like the people we talk about, and a lot of this stuff can be extremely graphic and messed up, and it's all real. So just like a word of warning, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely a warning when talking about Albert Fish and Ed Gein and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Albert Fish, you know some of the things he did to himself, right?
Yeah, and like you can talk about them if you want. Yeah. Yeah.
He was a sadist masochist or whatever.
Yeah,
I forget.
a sadomasochist, and he was like a really messed up pedophile too.
Yeah, and they don't even know how many people he killed. They called him the Wolf of what did they call him? I forget his nickname. His you know how every serial killer has like some sort of nickname before they're actually found it out. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Albert Fish, they think his number could be in the hundreds, but he took orphans and people no one would care about. But the one time he got caught was because he was an idiot, and no offense, but well, it's Albert Fish. Why would that be offensive? But
yeah, I mean, obviously, like we're by the way, we don't want anyone to think we're sympathizing or empathizing with these people. We're just saying, showing you guys how messed up a human being can get without an outlet like horror or art, and without a support system. But yeah, so that's just a disclaimer there. We're not like saying poor Albert Fish. We're just showing we're just showing his life with you. Fuck Albert Fish, you know what I mean? And by the way, I want to make it clear, fuck all serial killers, and really, because I have full sympathy for someone with any type of mental illness, any type of dark thoughts that they have before they act on them. Once you go ahead and ruin someone else's life, I could give a fuck less about you. But yeah.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I didn't mean to say no offense, because you know what? He was an idiot. I don't mean to be mean, but he's a serial killer, so who cares?
Exactly.
But he went and ate this girl that, obviously someone cared about, and then he wrote a letter to the family describing it, and then you got found it out, So that was, all on him for getting caught, The dude was crazy. Like, I cringe when I see the not X-rays, but the what he did to his pelvis area,
Yeah, it's just mind-bogglingly dark stuff.
And yeah, he was just, oh man, he's the most depraved I think I know of. I did write down here some other stuff. But like other serial killers I think that are pretty depraved were like Edmund Kemper, Otis Toole from the Hillside Stranglers, Green River Killer or Ripper or whatever his name was. And then, of course, you have the most famous ones, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and, of course, the mysterious Jack the Ripper and whoever killed the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, so it's just, and like, people might think like this is apart from horror. I know even people who are proponents of horror and like all that, they, I am, I think filmmakers who take real world crimes and add to the story are pieces of garbage. I think that is total disrespect for victims, and you should anyone who does that should be fucking ashamed of themselves and deserves to go to hell, honestly. But anyone who makes movies in terms of just to depict exactly what happened and really give you the story of just the worst parts of the human condition, I
Mm-hmm.
think are it's really a service for and lets people know like what could go so wrong in someone's life that maybe they know someone like that who they could help prevent, or they know someone who needs help like that. And yeah, so you mentioned all those guys, and I think apart, yeah, Albert Fish was like a good one to bring up because that's one I don't think people are familiar with, most people. But people like, and we're so thankful for shows like Mindhunter, which is just
Mm.
supremely made. David Fincher's just a beast of a filmmaker. You know, man, Mindhunter explores the birth of the FBI's criminal profiling unit. So, and like, you know, anyone who wants to know more about, you know, all those guys can just Google it. And a good podcast to check out if you guys want to listen to something that's not, because the subject matter is so depraved as it is, it might be hard for some people to just Google and spend hours researching about it. If you guys want to like listen to it like in the story format or kind of like a laid back format, I recommend the podcast True Crime All the Time. The two hosts there are called Mike and Gibby. They're two really like chill dudes, and they talk about everything super respectfully. And it's just a great way to learn about like these different crimes that happen and stuff. So True Crime All the Time. And then some people might have problem with this next one I mentioned because the guy is a little misogynistic in his own life, but in terms of being a host for a show and being respectful, he totally is. And that's Sword and Scale, and his name is Mike Boudet. Sword and Scale. So True Crime All the Time, Sword and Scale, and the last one is called Obscura. Those three are, I know Obscura is also the name of a metal band, so it's totally unrelated. But yeah, so True Crime All the Time, Sword and Scale, and Obscura are great podcasts to listen to if you guys want to get into true crime, just learning about these different kinds of people we're talking about. And speaking of, yeah, like the worst people we've heard of, personally the most messed up person I've heard of, and you guys can if you want a book about true crime, you guys should check out Robert K. Ressler's book, Whoever Fights Monsters. It's about his 25 years tracking serial killers for the FBI. So the book opens up with this killer and case, and it's it is easily personally the most messed up case I've ever heard of. It's this dude named Richard Chase, and they nicknamed him the Vampire of Sacramento. And again, even if you guys you heeded the warning, but you're still here, I'm giving you another warning. What I'm about to tell you is definitely, it is very, very sick and vile. So I will put a timestamp again just for this guy, what he did. If you guys do not want to listen to it, and I don't mean this as a dare, this is real life. So I'm giving this as a warning, not a dare. So this guy's name is Richard Chase. He was the Vampire of Sacramento, and basically what he did was he was a paranoid schizophrenic who believed that like his blood was turning to dust. And the saddest part about this is his parents both knew he was a paranoid schizophrenic, and they let him live alone, and they never did anything about it. His mom actually took him out of the hospital when he should have been there, and all his friends said this dude needs help. And what you're about to hear, knowing that it could have been stopped, is heartbreaking. But what this guy did is he basically went on a killing spree over the course of a month in Sacramento, California. So he'd go into people's homes. And just to show you how far gone this guy was, not only did he believe like Nazis were after him, his blood was turning to dust, he basically, the way he'd decide which homes to break into, he'd basically, anyone who left their doors open and unlocked, he'd take that as a sign that they were welcoming him in. So definitely lock your doors and windows, but what he'd do is he'd go in, point blank, shoot everyone in the house. Wife, family, kids. He just fucking killed them outright. And again, another warning. Okay, if you guys are still here, he'd take out their organs and make smoothies out of them, and this includes a baby, and he'd make smoothies out of their brains, dude, right there. And again, another warning. This is extremely fucked up. Uh, he'd use like their penises as straws and basically drink their remains out of these shakes he'd make right there, and then he'd move on to the next house. And he did this in succession. So
Wow.
okay, now the warning's gonna be over. But yeah, when I first read that in Robert K. Ressler's book, dude, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified and I was afraid to go out. I didn't go out that day because you realize, and it's worth noting, this guy was bullied his whole life, and no one took his mental illness really seriously, even though they knew they had it. So, and he never had any outlets. He barely had any friends. So, yeah, like this is, I don't want to turn this podcast about like we have already like kind of delved into it a little. So I'll end it right there in terms of that topic. But yeah, dude. So I hope anyone who listened to that really, like, first of all, lock your doors and windows, and don't just, I recommend everyone learn more about true crime. It's not entertainment so much as it is just fascination and being aware of how serious mental health is. So I guess we'll leave that topic at that. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I guess like there's no segue out of that. So I guess the next thing, the final thing we'll talk about is just kind of current projects we're working on and your writing habits and whatnot. But yeah.
Oh man, I am. Oh wow.
That was heavy. Yeah, that was pretty heavy.
What am I working on? You say?
Yeah.
Well, I got a few things in the works. You know about them, but yeah, I'm working on a few possible novellas. A lot of short stories. I don't want to talk about my short story collection because I don't think that's going to be available or finished until like my second short story collection. I don't think that's going to be finished until sometime at the end of next year because I've kind of exhausted myself from ideas for my first collection. So now I have to like reboot basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm also becoming a better writer when it comes to being able to write more and more. So my stories are becoming longer and longer and longer to the point where they're not even short stories anymore. So, and I think that's a blessing in disguise because at first I was like, I can never write a novel, you know? And then now I'm starting to be able to write novellas. So I'm getting there, you know? But when it comes to things I'm working on a story called Field of Fiends, which is a play on the movie Field of Dreams. Yeah. And I didn't come up with the name, but it is a goddamn good name.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like a cool name, man.
It was better than my original name for it. But, yeah, it's about this group of kids who go and play flashlight tag. And you think that's going to be innocent, but there's something in the field with them. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's awesome. And, like, you know, you and I talk so much about, and it's worth mentioning, you are someone, like, it just shows how different every single writer works, but you are someone who, like, is comfortable, like, having multiple projects open and working on them simultaneously. You know, from what I've shared with you, it not only I'm not comfortable with it, it really puts a strain on my mental health to start multiple projects at once, because I am a slow reader and a painfully slow writer. So for me, once like, ever since like my collection Buried with the Night, I finished that like 1 or 2 months ago, I have decided I'm only going to work on one project at once, and it is super hard to do, I think, because as writers we always want to feel like we're progressing in our craft and we're working on something new. So it's tempting to just start a short segment of a new short story or novella or novelette the second it comes into our mind. And I'm someone, I know that I've shared with you, I love creating the cover art for my work before I start writing on it. Before I start writing it, I'm an author. but yeah, it just keeps me inspired and motivated. But recently I stopped doing that too, because I'm like, it puts unnecessary pressure on something that's supposed to be a fun use of your time and a productive use of your time to share like this piece of you with the world. So anytime you're setting deadlines for yourself and anytime you're putting pressure on yourself, I always ask myself, is it worth the pressure? Is like what I'm trying to put out worth this pressure I'm applying to myself for no reason? Like, and always the answer has been no for me. So yeah, and it's cool to see like even like how you said you want to work on like your prose and like technical writing and stuff. For me, I always appreciate like how well story ideas just come to your mind and you can instantly start creating the world. I storytelling is something I struggle with a lot. Like I have to kill myself to think of a idea worth exploring for a story and then come back to life and kill myself again to even start writing it. So for me, the prose and writing has always been something that I'm much more I obviously am very meticulous about it, but I don't worry about it as much when I go into it. I am a lot more worried about the story side of things and like constantly doubting myself. And the least helpful thing I can do to myself is try to force myself to complete multiple projects or stories. So, and this is another reason why, you know, a lot of times I feel like I hope any horror writer in the community listening to this, I hope they never feel like I don't want to be as open with my work. It's not that. It's more like that is another channel of pressure that is added onto me personally when I start sharing with people what I'm working on, what I'm doing, any possible idea that I have, because then it goes into the whole. You open the whole can of worms of, hey, what if I decide I don't want to do this? I have to deal with potentially people asking me. Not that I have this huge audience at all, but the potential of people, you know, like asking me, hey, what happened to that or what happened to this? And if it's turns out to be every idea that I have that I've shared with people, it's gonna eventually take a toll and make me unnecessarily feel like I'm a failure when really I've been mildly successful so far. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Like pressure, mental health, and like writing?
Man, for me, recently, I got a tip from a friend, and they told me to kind of probably just slow down with the writing vlogs because they saw that it was creating pressure on myself,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize it because I've been like stressing out and I didn't know why, and I felt like it was my writing, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I stressed out? And it was because I kept telling everybody I have all these awesome projects coming, and then they keep asking about it. Like I have this friend on Facebook who's like, whatever happened to Space Waste, man? I can't wait to finish reading it. Because I let him read the first 2 chapters, and that's
Yeah.
all I've written since then. And he's all like, I can't wait to figure out what happens to Tyson and the space crew and all this other stuff. I'm like, I just don't feel like writing sci-fi horror right now. And he doesn't take that for an answer. He's like, you should finish stories before you start showing them off. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, but I get so excited about some of these projects I'm working on, and I want to share it with everybody, but as soon as I do, it creates this unneeded unknown stress that I don't see coming. And yeah, I like I said, there's so many. If you go to my website, I have I have a whole page of upcoming projects, and it has like 6 covers on it, and everyone's always asking me, when are you gonna finish that one? That looks good. And I'm like, I don't even know. But
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
And what's your site, by the way? Plug it in.
Oh, it's like a Wix site, so it's I have to look and see exactly what it is. It's authornicholasgray.wixsite.com,
Cool.
and it's
Okay.
like a dash gray horror.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly, man. I totally agree with everything you've just said, and that's why like and another thing, this is for people who constantly harangue authors about like as soon as they're done with one project. It's probably innocent and it's out of like just excitement, but it's for someone who likes creating, and already we've shared our thoughts on this. For it's a lot of pressure, and we feel even more obligated to like give answers or like show things when constantly people ask, oh, hey, what are you working on, what's next? Or sometimes there isn't anything we're working on, sometimes there isn't anything coming up that like soon. So like just probably don't constantly ask people that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have some people who are very supportive of me, but they just really want to know when that next thing's coming, and I never know,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
the writing process, I know it's different for you than it is for me, and I want to eventually get to where you're at. But
Well,
you know,
thanks so much, man. That's a nice compliment. Thank you.
yeah, of course. But
And I want to have, dude. I envy your imagination. Seriously, like I said, for anyone who hasn't read his work, it's going to be re-released, or I'm not sure. Nick might release it as a standalone. He said, but it's called. He wrote he wrote a story called Morbidio. So it's yeah, it's definitely one of the stories where I'm like, damn, like I really appreciate the storytelling side of this a lot, and like I really I wish I could easily come up with like tap into the dark creative side of my imagination like you can. But yeah.
yeah, that for real. Man, now I want to talk about more video, but
Yeah.
but yeah, Morbidio was one of my most exciting projects. I was watching a lot of David Cronenberg at the time, and I watched They Live by John Carpenter, and I just got inspired by one of the stories in the New Flesh book that I'm reading. Now I'm trying to complete it, but anyways, Morbidio just came up, and it was just an idea I didn't see coming, and it's actually my favorite story now. At first, it wasn't. I actually didn't like it because I thought it's too gross, because I like described the dog shit on the ground and stuff like that. I was trying to make this guy's room seem like so disgusting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think I like it because I was kind of not as detailed as I wish I could be in the future, but it was pretty detailed for me, you know.
Yeah.
Like when I don't want to ruin anything, but there's a scene where he might use a bowling ball
Yeah.
to smash someone's face in. Yeah, that scene was one of the most fun scenes to write for me, and I wish I was more detailed, but that's besides the point. It was so much fun to write, you know. But what I was saying earlier was that my editing process is a little different from yours. I try to get the story out on paper as fast as I possibly can, because the idea it will dissipate and I will lose interest in it. So if I don't finish it as right away, then it goes away. And what I want to work on is being a little meticulous with the editing, so going word sentence by sentence by sentence, like some people might do.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, yeah, like I really appreciate, and like it just, like I said, that just goes back to me of like managing my stress, which is why I end up going very slow, like sentence by sentence. Obviously, that's how you write a book, but I'm saying like Nick knows what I'm talking about. Anyone who like ever once is curious about just how I write, yeah, they'll understand how exactly slow I go. And it's more so just because that's how I feel comfortable with writing. It's not so much as like this guarantees I'll have like the cleanest or most perfect story. Because a lot of times, like what Nick is saying is the better route. Like, because if you have a whole like story, everything is just there. You should seize that opportunity of inspiration and get it all out on the page. That's something I struggle with and I just can't do. So yeah.
Yeah, I know myself. I get bored very easily of a story subject, so I try my best to just release it and vomit all over the page, and then I'll clean it up later type thing, you know? And that's the part where I'm really working on, because I want to learn how to self-edit my own work. Because usually once I write the first draft, a rough draft, I send it to an editor immediately, you know, and then I pay all this money for someone to, you know, edit a rough draft, and then later on I'm gonna have to pay them again to edit that same draft, you know.
Yeah, that's why, like, obviously, like, I have a lot of respect for good editors, but I think there is something to be said about, and Kealan Patrick Burke is an example of this. Self-editing is something I always strive to get better at. I love doing. It makes you a better writer, and it forces you to be more aware of your own work. So yeah, like, self-editing is something I highly recommend everyone explore.
Yeah, it's something that I really want to get better at, because I feel like I could do 3 drafts by myself, just going over and over and over, editing it, and then maybe sending it to an editor, you know? Because I feel like I do have the power to make my story better just by myself, you know? If that makes any sense. But, yeah, I work my hardest to write that story, like I said, to vomit all over the page, and it could be hard, and really hard to just complete a story for me. But when I do it and then I'm finished, I feel so like I feel like it's out of my brain now and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I do really want to get better with the editing. So, going line by line and figuring out what the best line would possibly be for that, I think I'm repeating myself too much, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
I think we'll save my thoughts on the actual like what I think of beta reading as a whole for another day, but I think your work should always stay your work at the end of the day. So if there's a content editor or someone telling you that something doesn't work, just remember that people should keep in mind that that is just still one person's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you give your book to 40 people and 6 of them have a problem with 34 people, they're honest, but that's not the same problem they have. Chances are it's just an opinion. If all 40 people tend to have, and I have no problem using one of my short stories, Darjeeling, in my, by the way, a little plug for my own work. Nick did a review over at Spooky Noodles' channel for my short story collection, Buried with the Night. It's 4 short stories and a novelette, and one of the short stories, Darjeeling, that was in Year's Best Hardcore Horror, published by Red Room Press. One of the problems a lot of people seem to have with it, I never got beta readers for it, and I would have realized this. And it's not something, and I keep rambling, but it's not a problem that I could have like corrected necessarily. But the story basically takes place in a Himalayan town, and the characters involved are all of Indian and Pakistani descent. So I wanted to be true to the names. That being said, a lot of the names actually sound very similar. So even though it wasn't that hard for me to keep track of, it is a consistent problem that everyone who's read that story has said. Like, the only problem they have with it actually is that it was very hard to keep track of all the characters and get a hold of what's happening to who. And I totally see that now. So in that sense, that is an example of where giving it to beta readers to just get a feel for what their problem was. I would have been able to see, oh, this is a problem that's not really to do with the story, but to a creative choice that I made that everyone has across the board. So maybe I could have worked on that a bit. But yeah, in general, I feel the more you can do on your own to make sure that your work is your work in terms of its prose, its cleanliness, its story, I think the more happy you'll be with the overall product.
Yeah, and I want to apologize for a second. Someone just let the loud-ass dog in, so I apologize if you hear him. I've been trying so hard to contain him from barking and stuff, but if you do hear him in the background, I do apologize.
No,
he did howl once, so
no,
like right there.
It's all good, man. And actually, like, I think we're about to wrap this up soon anyway. I think we gave, like, thank you everyone so much for, like, tuning in. Like, it means a lot to me and Nick that people care to listen to what we have to say about these things. But you know, it's good. It's about like a little over 2 hours of footage, I think. So
You mean 2 hours of content?
2 hours of content, exactly. Not footage. Yeah, audio only. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah, no, timestamp too. So you guys can skip anything you don't give a shit about. But yeah, I mean, I just want to thank
over my writing process.
Yeah, that's why we saved our shitty writing processes for the end. But so I just want to thank everyone again for listening. Thank you so much, Nick, for wanting to do this. I mean, we have like such good conversations on our own frequently throughout the week. So we both thought it would be a good idea to just share a little bit of what we talk about in private with you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed this a lot. And yeah, like, do you have any last thoughts, man?
All I want to say is go subscribe to Spooky Noodles channel.
Yeah, man, definitely go check out Nick. He's an awesome guy, and I'm sure like if anyone made it through this whole hangout session, they'd really love all your videos and like would definitely be happy with just the different content you put out. So all right, guys, I'm gonna shut up here. Thank you so much. I do have a collection out that Nick reviewed on his channel. You can check that out. It's called Buried with the Night. And yeah, we'll leave it right there. Thanks so much, man. All right.
Yeah, and again, sorry for the loud ass dog.
Nah, no problem, man. All right, peace out, guys.